Greetings, friends, brothers, and sisters. Anyone who tunes on to this and hears this, I wanted to come to you with the dream that I had concerning a lion, lionesses, and young lions. I was asleep, and I have a lot of dreams, and sometimes I write them down, sometimes I post them, sometimes I let them out to people and tell them. Sometimes I keep them to myself because I don't know what they are. But this one has been on my heart now for about 4 or 5, maybe 6 days now, and I wanted to share it. In my dream, I saw a vast plain, kind of like a really flat. I don't want to say a desert-like plain. There was grass, but there were trees, and they were sporadic here and there, almost like if you were watching a National Geographic and you saw a really flat area, maybe Africa or something like that, and those trees that you see in those pictures or those videos, and they're just kind of sporadically sticking up here and there with really low bush, grass maybe 4, 5, 6 inches tall. Anyway, I was standing on this plain, and I was looking out on this plain, and the sun was behind me, and so I could see in front of me for miles and miles is what it seemed like. And way off in the distance, I saw, at first it was just a really low shadow on the ground. But as I was sitting there, and it almost seemed like time was kind of moving a little faster than it would be just like here and now. As this cloud got closer, I began to realize that it was people and they were walking. And it was a lot of people. I mean, literally a lot. Thousands upon thousands of people walking. And they were from one end to the left that I could see to the right that I could see, coming at me in that direction. And as they got closer, I began to make these people out, and I could see that it was just people. And I don't really remember what they were dressed like or anything like that, but they were coming. They were all walking in one direction, and it just looked like they were all headed in one way, and they weren't really talking or anything like that. Well, as I was sitting and staring off at these people, out of the corner of my eye, a lion went by me, a huge lion. I mean, it wasn't, if you've been to a zoo, or maybe if you've been to other countries where you see lions, and I'm talking about lions with the mane kind of lion, and it went running by me, and it went in and hit these people head on, and behind it came several other lions. I think there were 3 male younger lions with small manes, not really a mane, but you could see they were male. And with that, there were some lionesses that came with it. And they were going into the crowd, and they were hitting the crowd head on and coming back out of the crowd of people. And they were killing people is what they were doing. And of course, I stood there. I was horrified. Now remember, I'm in a dream, so everything was just kind of really vivid to me, and the colors were very vivid, and I was able to plainly see what was happening. And when the lion turned and came back, my first thought, seeing the lion, was, because I'm a Christian, was, oh, is this Jesus, Lion of the tribe of Judah? Is this, oh wow, is this what I'm seeing? But when it hit the crowd, and these other lions hit the crowd and started taking these people and killing these people, and it was almost like it was oblivious to most of the people what was happening to them, And when it turned around and come back at me, I could see by looking at this lion that this was not I don't know how to describe it. I could just tell that it was not. I knew it wasn't God. I knew it wasn't Jesus. I knew that this was a very mean, ferocious looking animal, and that it had full intention on killing. And when I say it was giant, I mean, this lion was big. Its head probably came up to my head. Now, I'm 6 foot tall, so it would all but be looking down at me. It was so big. And it would take back off out of my sight, and they would come back around, and they would hit the crowd again, and come back out and hit the crowd again, to the best that I can recall in this dream. At one point, I remember looking to the left and to the right and seeing others like me that were kind of standing there, and we were staring at what was happening. And all of a sudden, when the lions charged the group of people, we took off running toward the group of people ourselves. and we were hollering and we were telling them to be careful, to watch out. They were being attacked. They were going to be killed if they didn't get out of the way. And it really just seemed like nobody was listening, really, at first. I do remember the closer we got, that it did seem like for a second, almost like the people were in a daze. And then some of them kind of snapped out of it. And when they snapped out of it, you could see they kind of panicked and got out of the way of these lions that were coming at them. And in the process of doing so, where I was at, the lion turned, almost like it understood what I was doing. It didn't turn like it heard my voice, so it just turned around to see what I was. It turned around and it almost had a human expression on its face. As far as, if you've ever had an animal, you know how your animals have lived with you for so long and they just have this look on their face that is almost human. Like you can see, if they're hungry or they're wanting to go outside or whatever you want to call it. Well, that's what this looked like. Like I could see that it understood what I was saying. And it ferociously roared at me. I mean, it made me tremble a little bit because I wasn't expecting that, because I thought I was oblivious to it because of the way they kept running by me and these others and stuff. Well, when the lion turned and came at me, I just kind of stood in a position like I was going to fight it or something like that. And I remember when the lion got almost to me, I jumped in the air and I kicked at the lion. And I kicked it hard enough in the nose that it turned, and it was already in a full motion, and it kind of shook its head and ran by me. And those trees that I was telling you about, and those trees were probably, 10, 12 foot tall trees, and they had pretty good sized trunks and pretty good sized limbs on them. And, which is where I get that from earlier, like Africa, like the Serengeti kind of look. And when it turned and I did that, I remember I turned around and there were several of those lions coming at me. And I ran over to the tree and I climbed up inside this tree. And from the tree, I was warning the people. And at the same time, I was hollering at the lions to get their attention to me and get them off the people. And I wasn't alone doing it. There were others that I could see doing this, but I don't know how many others there were. And we continued on and continued on fighting and fighting and fighting. And we had the strength as the lions were trying to attack us. They weren't able to hurt us. They got close to hurting us and they were swatting at us and trying to jump up and bite us, but we were just I was just out of the height of what they needed. And I remember that I kept fighting at them and warning people, and slowly people were starting to hear, some of them, what we were doing. But then there was this whole other group of people who just continued walking forward. And while this lion had our attention and the other lions had the attention of the other people who were speaking and what have not, the other lions were going in and they were just, it was kind of like they were just systematically sweeping in, snatching somebody up, eating them, basically in one bite, and running back out and going back and doing it again. They were just rotating around and around and around and around. And pretty much the end of the dream, I remember crying out in that dream, God help us, God save us. And the lion looked at me in it understood what I said. It literally, and it only seemed to make it more angry at me. And I remember that I fell out of the tree. The lions were kind of jumping. I was kicking and I kind of fell out of the tree, but I landed on my feet and I reached up and I kicked. And I don't know why I kicked, because I've never really fought when I was younger kicking, but I kicked the lion and I caught it in its left paw, or right above its paw, and it snapped the leg of this lion and it made it limp. And I came out of the dream that fast. At first I just thought, this is a dream. That I watched something on TV, that I watched Animal Planet, some show on animals, and I hadn't watched anything like that. And I thought about it, and a couple of days went by, and I felt like the Lord was speaking to me, and He was letting me know this is how the enemy's attacking. We've been told that he's like a lion, to give us an idea of how ferocious he can be, because we know what lions can be like to people. We've all seen it. We've heard stories and reports and seen movies where the lions are attacking people. And so we've been told about Satan or Lucifer being as a lion, seeking whom he may devour. But in this dream, I saw there were other lions, and they were the same kind of lions as he was, but they just weren't of the status that he was. You could tell that this was the king lion of this pride of lions and what have not. And they were systematically taking people out, and the people were almost oblivious to what was being happening to them. I mean, you know, they weren't even hollering out when these lions attacked them or anything like that. But through us crying and warning these people, some of them turned. Some of them began to notice some of them began to back away and back up from these things. And it brought that to us. And so I believe with all my heart this was the word of the Lord concerning those people who speak as God tells them to speak to the world. And maybe even to brothers and sisters out there who are blindly following one way and not realizing that they may not be fully following what the Lord wants them to follow and obeying his commands and being those disciples that he's asked us to be of him and stuff. And then also probably for the world. But there are some who are hearing prophets or people with prophetic messages or evangelists, and they're hearing them. And they're speaking to them, and they know what they're saying, and so they're turning from these things. And that's, as I thought about it for a couple of days, and I felt the Spirit coming over, that's what I felt like the Lord was saying. That there is a movement that is happening right now, that the world is being consumed, and people are being consumed by the enemy right now. And they are almost obliviously being consumed by this. But that there are those out there. And compared to what I could see of us, it was very few compared to how many people were coming at us. But we were speaking nevertheless. And I don't know necessarily that I am that, but I just know I was in that dream. I want to clarify that. And I think that the message here is that we have to be careful, because the lion not only comes himself to devour us, but he has those underneath him that are like him that are coming to devour, both men and both women, male and female, that are coming in that spirit of coming after and trying to destroy. And that we must stand up and we must cry out and warn people and tell them what's going on. And if they listen, then they listen, and God is glorified, I believe, and then that's the message there. But they don't listen, then it's something that's upon themselves. In the book of Ezekiel, it says very clearly that a watchman, if he sees it coming, the advancement, and he speaks up, then that blood is not on his hands, but it's on those that he warned. But if he doesn't speak up, if he doesn't say anything, then that blood, their blood, and his is upon himself. And on that day before the Lord, there will be a reckoning. And we will have to give account for that, and we will be held for that in that spot. And so that is the dream that I had. The lion, the lions, and the lionesses. Thank you. May God's peace be upon you. May his peace return. May you have understanding.